Hi, my name is Jo Cottrell, dog behaviourist and owner of Dog Trouble, the first dog behaviour training and wellness centre in the UK. You may be aware that banning the use of remote collars on dogs, or electric shock collars as the media like to call them, is currently a topic of great discussion, and as a result, DEFRA are now leading a consultation process to decide this. As a dog behaviourist, I specialise in the rehabilitation of dogs with extreme behaviour issues, including aggression, and the education of people about dog behaviour. I am speaking out to you today to bring to your attention the clear facts about remote training collars used for the training and rehabilitation of dogs, and to ask those of you whose lives have been changed through the use of a remote collar with your dog to support the response in preventing the ban by completing the consultation questionnaire link on the Dog Trouble website and Facebook page. Quite simply, remote collars are saving lives without cruelty. They include a collar that goes on a dog and a remote control that the owner holds. The remote has levels that can generate a stimulus, sound, or vibrate in the rehabilitation and training of dogs to support the teaching of a skill or a desired behaviour. If a good quality model, like this one, is used by professionals and those trained by professionals, they are not cruel to dogs. I use a variety of training methods to rehabilitate dogs with behaviour issues, including food, toys, whistles, and remote training collars. Why? Because like humans, a dog's behaviour will vary in terms of severity, and they are motivated to learn by different stimuli. A remote collar is for some dogs an absolute lifeline in preventing them from being put to sleep. People that criticise remote collar training, firstly, don't understand it, secondly, have not seen a responsible trainer like myself using one, and thirdly, aren't exposed to the types of dog behaviour that I see on a daily basis and successfully rehabilitate. So when people who have no knowledge or experience in dog behaviour rehabilitation think they have a right to decide the future of remote collar training with dogs, my response is speak to the hundreds of owners whose dogs I and many others have saved with positive remote collar training. Ask them the difference it made to their life with their dog and the fact that their dog is still alive from successful and humane rehabilitation using a remote collar. As humans, we get frustrated and angry when we don't feel in control of our dog, and sometimes the actions of the handler are fueled by anger and frustration, which is cruel. Remote collars give people back the control they sometimes never had or lost with their dog, preventing them from getting angry or frustrated with them, particularly when their dog's instincts are so high that they cannot control them in certain situations. The majority of dog owners I see have tried other trainers or behaviourists that have used methods involving food, toys, clickers or whistles prior to contacting me. They have reported to me that it hasn't worked, and certainly not when their dog is focused on something, usually another dog, person or animal, to such a high intensity. So that very fact tells me that what these trainers are doing isn't working with the most serious behaviour issues such as dog or people aggression or recall. When I coach with people and their dogs, I teach people how to achieve the desired behaviour from their dog, sometimes using food, toys or whistle, and sometimes using a remote collar. We use remote collars when other training techniques don't work, and when a level of behaviour is deemed so high or dangerous that it is the safest and most effective method of training in keeping other animals and people safe. If using a remote collar is cruel to dogs, then why do so many owners keep using my services? Why am I inundated with people desperate for help with their dog's behaviour who report to me, using a remote collar has changed my life with my dog? Why do dog owners keep coming back to training sessions and promote my services to other dog owners out there, advocating how successful the training has been? There is no way dog owners would let behaviourists like myself rehabilitate their dog if they thought my methods were cruel. They are the best judge in this argument by asking them about their experience. The reactiveness in some people towards remote collars is not about cruelty to dogs. It's about a lack of understanding and education. It's about a body of people who are trying to extinguish those dog behaviourists and trainers who are making a real difference to dog behaviour and are able to rehabilitate those dogs other trainers can't rehabilitate because they think that food, a clicker, or a whistle can be used to train and rehabilitate every dog. That's naive. Dogs are animals. They're not robots. They have a survival instinct and will therefore not always do what you want them to do by using those methods. Remember the YouTube video of Fenton chasing after the deer in the Great Park? A perfect example of a dog behaving as an animal and chasing prey, which could have resulted in him getting killed crossing a road or actually killing a deer. Something remote collar training can prevent. It is also not a coincidence that since banning remote collars in Wales in 2010, the NFU Mutual Insurance have reported an alarming increase in livestock attacks by dogs, something a remote collar could also prevent. Some people thrive posting their views on social media, being in chat groups and forums, but also bullying people into believing what they think. They are not interested in learning about the real facts and that we are saving more dogs from being euthanised and from having behaviour issues by using remote collars. We are giving hundreds of dog owners the confidence and the skills to manage their dog's behaviour so that they can live a happy life with their dog. To me, their focus isn't the dog or the owner's welfare at all. Their focus is about shutting down behaviourists who are actually making a difference to people's lives with their dogs by bullying others into believing remote collar training is cruel. Simply by calling them electric shock collars, which the media thrive on, using a negative connotation immediately makes people believe they are cruel. What is cruel are the trainers and organisations that keep misdiagnosing dog behaviour and telling owners that they should have their dog put to sleep, instead of admitting that their dog's behaviour is beyond their expertise. Instead, why don't they put their own beliefs aside and think about the dog and the owner's welfare and recommend a behaviourist that could help them by using a different method that could work? They don't. They recommend putting the dog to sleep. I do agree there needs to be a control mechanism in terms of the quality of training that dog owners can receive using remote collars, and control of the types of remote collars available to purchase. There are some models of remote training collars that, in my opinion, are too harsh and shouldn't be used. There are also some people out there who have not been trained in how to use remote collars so that they create a positive understanding between the collar, the dog, and the handler of the desired behaviour. It's important to acknowledge the need for a licence system to enable the trainers or behaviourists who use remote collars positively to teach remote collar training to dog owners. It is important they are taught by professionals like myself how to use these devices so that their dog has a positive understanding and experience of the collar. With proper training, owners can be more safe and responsible with their dogs, in addition to being able to give them more exercise, more opportunity to be off lead, and also gaining more respect and trust from their dogs. That trust and respect comes not because they are being cruel to them, but because they are instilling rules and boundaries in a way that a dog understands and respects. It is also important to address the current accessibility on the internet to obtain collars that are poor quality. I purchase the Educator collar from the USA because I don't like how high the levels are on the collars that can be obtained in the UK. The low stimulus levels on this collar are subtle, allowing dogs to respond with a low level. It also has a sound and a vibrate setting, which can also be used. Banning remote collars is not the solution. It's certainly not a decision to be made by individuals who have not had experience dealing with dogs with extreme behaviour issues and experience using remote collars, or a decision to be made by a dog breeding and a rescue organisation. We are inundated with dogs with behaviour issues in the UK at the moment. So surely trainers, behaviourists, rescue organisations should be collaborating to help these dogs and owners live a happier, balanced life, irrespective of what training methods are used. Instead, what we have now is some individuals and organisations channeling negative energy in criticising trainers and behaviourists like myself that don't all share the same beliefs or use the same training methods as them. Surely, if the training technique is not cruel and the same outcome is reached, does it matter what training techniques are used? Too often, the politics amongst human beings fail animals. Yet again, humans are letting dogs down by not doing what's best for the dog, unwilling to step outside their comfort zone or admit that their methods are not working. Some dogs cannot be saved. Some are too unbalanced and their behaviour too extreme or unpredictable. However, there are many that are simply being misdiagnosed by trainers and organisations that could be saved, but with a different style of training. It doesn't mean that training is cruel or wrong. It just means that that dog learns in a different way. Some dog owners are not seeing the transformation in their dog using the one-size-fits-all training techniques. They are not experiencing success. I invite the government and the media to come and see how remote collars are used positively on dogs with behaviour issues, and speak to the dog owners whose dogs' lives have been saved by using a remote collar. The facts speak for themselves by talking to them and seeing for yourself how happy and balanced their dog is. What I will say to the people and organisations trying to ban remote collars and to the government is, are you ready to put more dogs to sleep? Are you ready to see an increase in dog attacks? Are you ready to see more dogs getting killed running across a road? Are you ready for the influx of dogs being taken to rescue centres for rehoming because owners are frustrated and unhappy with their dog's behaviour? Are you ready for dog wardens to be picking more dogs up off the streets because dogs have run off from their owners due to poor recall? Are you ready for that? And do you have a strategy that is going to sort all of that when it happens, that doesn't involve an act of cruelty by just putting them to sleep? Right now, remote collars are saving lives by preventing these situations from happening without being cruel to a dog. It's naive to think all dogs are cute, fluffy pooches, but that's not the real world. They are animals, derived from wolves, that have the ability to attack and kill in certain situations. Next, you will see some footage of me using a variety of training methods, including a remote collar, to rehabilitate a dog who exhibits dog aggression towards some dogs. You can see for yourself the difference in using each of the training methods and see that at no point is the dog experiencing cruelty by using a remote collar. So as you can see, Tess has already spotted Iggy. Okay, so she's already locked onto him and watching him. So I'm going to present the ball in front of her face. I'm going to try and make the ball a little bit more inviting, a little bit more exciting. Leave it. Leave it. let's go. So as you can see, she went into defence fight. I tried to use a tennis ball, which she is obsessed about. She loves playing ball. But because she was so high in that defence fight drive, a tennis ball wasn't enough to snap her out of that defence fight drive and bring her back into pack drive, which means calm, following me, just as we walk, okay? So this time we're going to do it again, but using food, to see if food works to snap her out. So now I'm going to use a piece of Tesco's Finest chicken breast. I'm going to present it in front of Tess. So she's eating it now because she's in a low drive. So as we travel towards Iggy, I want to see if it works to distract her. Leave it. Good girl. Leave it. So what you saw there is she still went into defence fight drive. It didn't distract her going into that drive. But then she'd snap out for a moment, take the food, and then she'd go right back into defence fight drive towards Iggy again. So what that shows you is that it can distract a dog, but for a moment. It doesn't change their mindset. So they'll take the food, but immediately go back into whatever drive they were in earlier. Okay, so now I'm using a mini educator, which is a remote training collar, which Tess has been trained on. So she understands the fundamentals of the remote collar. So when she goes into that defence fight drive, I use the remote to snap her out of that drive and bring her back into pack drive. So as I'm approaching, she's locked on, leave it, leave it. I'm going to tap her just before we get past Iggy, so that I'm saying to her, leave it at the same time, so she knows to leave it as we go past. So as she's zoning in on him, I'll just tap her, leave it, leave it. Good girl, good girl. And then I give her praise, so she understands completely that she'll get a correction if she goes into defence fight. She'll get praise if she walks past in pack drive. Okay, let's just do it again. Leave it, leave it, leave it. Good girl. So you can see she's still looking at him, but not with the same intensity. And her tail is midline, her ears are slightly flicked back, leave it. And she's actually starting to learn that if she reacts, she gets a correction. So even if she does react, the remote collar snaps her out of that defence fight drive a lot quicker than her having food or a tennis ball, because she's not motivated enough by food or a tennis ball when she's in a heightened defence fight drive. So remote collars give people the confidence and the control to be able to correct a dog out of a certain drive and redirect them back into pack drive where they're following and they're calm with the owner. So what you can see now is as she taps it, as she starts to go into being interested in him, I'll just give her a little tap, leave it. Good girl. Good girl. She gives me eye contact. That means that she's tuned into me mentally instead of tuning in to Iggy. So when a dog walks past, I can just give a little tap. It's like somebody tapping you on the shoulder just to say, look at me, let's go. Good girl. And you can see she's not in any pain. She's not in any discomfort. She completely understands what the remote collar means. Let's go. Her ears aren't right back. Her tail's not right under. She's not trying to flight away from me. She's not trying to avoid. She's not weeing herself or pooing herself, which are all the signs that a dog is in discomfort or, nervousness or anxiety. Good girl. Good girl. So when dogs have such high defence fight drive or such a high prey drive, food and toys or clickers or whistles will work to a certain level. But if they are so high in that drive, it won't work. You need remote collars, which you've taught with that dog, so that it snaps them out of that drive and redirects them back to you. Hey, Tess.